We are going to stick with this topic of election integrity, but we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about something that has been uncovered in the province of Ontario. And to discuss this, I'm pleased to be joined by Clayton DeMaine, who is a journalist with True North. Clayton, welcome to the program. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so tell us about the story that you broke over at True North on our website, Juno News, exclusive Elections Ontario probing video alleging election flaws. Ontario is investigating after a whistleblower filmed an expose claiming to reveal vulnerabilities in the Ontario voting process. Clayton, why don't you tell us about the story and tell us about the whistleblower that you've been talking to?
Yeah, so absolutely. The whistleblower is, he didn't want to give his full name because he's afraid of legal reprisal. But he said his name is Spencer. He operates the YouTube channel Make Canada Great Again, or MCGA. And so what he did is he used a fake bank statement with fake names and phony addresses to expose the vulnerabilities in the election, or purporting to expose vulnerabilities in the voting system in Ontario. So he did show us the images he used. He just edited a TD bank statement, changed some of the names. Yeah, and so he was able to get all the way up to the point of attestation, where you're signing the iPad, and that's just you're saying, "I am who I say I am. My age is accurate. My address is correct. I had to do this myself." Um, but yeah, so he got up to that point, but he didn't want to vote fraudulently. He considers himself a patriot. So he didn't do that, but he did vote once with his real address and his real name in the riding that he's supposed to be in, using the same method. So he went to 13 different ridings and did this, and so I guess like his whole point is to show the problems with not having voter ID. You could just potentially vote multiple times using different addresses. There are laws against, voter fraud, but the question is, like, would they be able to catch this? Elections Ontario did not tell us when we asked, and the first article we published was a week ago. They still haven't told us whether or not there's any checks and balances beyond the point of attestation that would have prevented somebody from committing voter fraud.
And this message is for the YouTube audience. We love the YouTube audience. Everybody, thank you so much for following our content and supporting us at Juno News. I'm going to ask for one thing. Please take a second to like this video. Every time someone likes the video, it helps expand our reach. We can reach more like-minded Canadians just like yourself who care about the truth and have a bit of common sense. So like the video, leave us a comment, tell us your favorite part of the show, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you never miss an update. And if you want to watch full episodes of my show, The Candice Malcolm Show, head on over to junonews.com. We record the show live every morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and consider becoming a subscriber. Support independent news, support independent journalism. Thank you so much. Back to the episode.
Yeah,
it's really unbelievable. I mean, this is true investigative journalism, right? This individual went out and did something. He was wearing a camera so that he could film it, but he's just going to show how easy it is. Like, you can literally just show up and say, "Oh, I don't have an ID," and basically talk people into it, which is what the video that we were just showing shows. He's just able to talk his way through and eventually get to a place where you don't even really need ID. You could just sign your name. And there is an update in the story today, Clayton, because the same whistleblower reached out to us, sent us an email that had been sent to him from Elections Ontario, demanding that he take down the YouTube video. So it says, "Thank you for contacting Elections Ontario. Upon further review, we have determined that the video here has violated the privacy of our staff. We are requesting that you remove the video immediately." And we blurred out the name of the official there. But basically, they have been caught red-handed, not enforcing the rules, or maybe the rules aren't there to begin with. And so their response is to basically make something up, because from best I can tell, Clayton, the video that we just showed doesn't violate anybody's privacy rights because everybody's face is blurred out. You have no idea who the people are. You just know that it's a voting station in Ontario. So what do you think of this recent update, this latest update?
Yeah, so he did send me that email, and they didn't address his concerns with the voter vulnerabilities. When we reached out, they also didn't. They just said they were investigating the video, and they didn't say, are they investigating the vulnerabilities that he's purporting to expose, or are they just investigating him to try to slap him with fines for exposing these things. So I look forward to hearing back from Elections Ontario on what they're doing here. I would like we even asked them, like, do you even take this seriously? So like I would like to hear back from them on that. But his concern was really that, like, are they gonna catch this sort of voter fraud from happening? And even if they do, will they discount the vote? And what if it's someone, we're talking a lot about foreign interference these days? What if somebody just comes from, does this method, votes multiple times. They're not even a Canadian citizen or a resident here. And by the time they catch something like this, they might be out of the country. So, it does pose a bunch of questions about the integrity of elections.
And it's not just Ontario. I want to tie this back to what just happened on Sunday evening, Clayton, because as you probably saw, we were told that there were 400,000 registered Liberals. We know that the Liberal Party rules mean that you don't have to be a citizen of Canada to be a registered voter. You don't have to even be of legal voting age federally. You could be 14 years or older, and you don't have to pay any money. Unlike other political parties, in order to be a member considered eligible to vote, you have to pay a very nominal fee, maybe $5, $10, $20, something like that. In for the Liberals, you don't have to do any of those things. So we're told that they had 400,000 registered members, and yet when it came to the vote on Sunday evening to select the new prime minister, and 85% of the race, we were told, went for Mark Carney, but that only includes 151,899 people who voted. So we were told there were 400,000, and yet only 151 and change thousand people voted, fewer than 40%. So that means 60% of people on their own list did not vote. I mean, in this conversation about integrity of our voting system, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of concerns early on in the race when people were just signing up. One person signed up their dead dog. I think it was Dahlia Kurtz. Um, there was one who signed up on the Chinese consulate. So essentially, Xi Jinping could, the president of, or the dictator of China, could vote in our elections potentially. So they did seem to address some of those concerns. You didn't even have to be a citizen to vote at one point, but they changed that to be, at least a permanent resident. I believe I could have that wrong, but they did address some of those concerns. But federally, like, that's a good point because, like, in terms of the general election that's, incoming, you just need the rules aren't as, like, are a little bit more strict than Ontario's election, but you could still just use two pieces of documentation with your name and address. So you could use its utility bill and a bank statement. So, um, I there's still potentially concerns in our federal election if there's not if it's not proven that there is these checks and balances beyond that point. And I just want to add, like, when I went into the Ontario election, I moved recently, so I had to use I didn't have a voter information card. I just had an Amazon receipt. I did show them my IDs, but that wasn't necessary. Like, I showed them, like, hey, I am who I say I am. And it's funny because the receipt said, I have two last names. Like, it said Clayton DeMaine on the receipt, but my legal name is Clayton DeMaine Pratt. I just shorten it for media. So, like, my ID names didn't even match the receipt, and I was still able to vote. Like, luckily I'm not committing fraud, but like, this story did make me go, huh? Like, I didn't even really think about how potentially vulnerable that makes our elections.
Well, it's interesting. It kind of brought me back because when I was in university, I went to the University of Alberta up in Edmonton, and I wanted to vote in the PC race at the time to replace who was going to replace Ralph Klein. And I went to go vote, but I was from British Columbia, so my ID was from British Columbia, but I lived in Alberta because I went to school there. And so all I had was my University of Alberta student ID. And then when it came to my address, I mean, I lived in shared housing, so I didn't even have a utility bill, but it just happened in my backpack to have a magazine that I subscribed to, Maclean's at the time, and it had my address in the constituency, and so they let me vote for that. And it's kind of funny. I did have photo ID, but didn't have my address on it, and then I had to use a magazine. And it just, like, if I hadn't have had that magazine in my bag, they wouldn't have let me vote. But I do think that there is like a problem when you can kind of just like talk your way in to voting, and it just shows how in some ways like our system is just not secure. It's fine if everybody trusts each other, if you live in a high trust society where the person back in the day when I was voting in that leadership race, they said, okay, this person's obviously who she says she is, she's got a student card, whatever. But when you start considering against a backdrop of like, we know we have foreign entities and adversarial actors in Canada trying to thwart our democracy and trying to undermine our votes, our parliament admitted so much, and yet we still don't take this kind of thing seriously. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's we're just operating on it like a trust system essentially, which I agree. Yeah, it's like when because that's what you get when like even Spencer was talking about the person who did this video. He was like, these aren't bad people who are the elections officers. Like they want to trust you. Like they just want to make your vote easier. It's not their fault, right? It's like, but like it does make you think. Kind of like, okay, well, maybe we should rethink this, especially when you talk about the foreign interference and we mass immigration, whatever. So we don't know who's if you don't even have to be a citizen like that's potentially a problem.
It's so unreal. All right, Clayton, appreciate your time. Thanks for all your hard work and great reporting over at True North, and thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you.
That was a clip from my daily show, The Candice Malcolm Show, where we discuss news, politics, and culture from a uniquely Canadian and common sense perspective. To catch full episodes, we record them and air them every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Head on over to our website, junonews.com.